Did you know that you can now view the source code in PowerApps? Yeah, that's right. It's in some weird thing called YAML, but don't worry. We're going to explain all of that today, how it works, how to copy and paste that code. We're even going to talk about how to use Visual Studio Code and this Red Hat YAML extension. I don't know what that means, but we're going to learn how all of this works to let us start to edit our code for PowerApps outside of PowerApps Studio and over in just plain text, right? Now, if you're thinking, Shane, I'm not a developer, I don't care about this. That's fair. I'm not a developer either. But I spent the last 6 hours learning about this because now it lets me peek under the hood a little further, see a little bit more. So I feel like this is something all of us want to learn. If you are a pro dev, then you're going to want to understand this because you're going to start thinking about GitHub repositories and merges and all that. Like, we're not going to get into that, but I want to show you the editor, the VS Code, the extensions, and all of that so that you can be more powerful when you start doing source code. Sound fun? Then let's just switch over to my desktop and take a look. All right, so let's just start here with PowerApps. We got a blank app. I've done nothing with it. And let's just insert ourselves button, right? So insert a button here. Now, when you insert a button, now one of the new things you can do is if you right click here, there is view code. When you do this, this is going to show you the YAML, right? We don't care what YAML is. It's very similar to JSON. It doesn't like spaces, but like it's just text, right? But this is the YAML that powers PowerApps under the hood. So these are all the settings. Now, if you're looking at it saying, Shane, I know a button has a lot more than that. That's right. This is only ever going to show you the properties that are non-default, right? Like, so if we close this and we go back here to the button, and let's just go over here to the right and change its color from that blue to this orange color. Right now, if we say view code, now we see that the fill, because that's what that was just changed, has been done. The other thing you might know, like if you go here on the dropdown, anything, see how fill is bolded and then X and Y don't bold, but anything that we change here is going to be changed, right? Let's just change the color here. Let's just change this to be color.black, right? That, right? So then now if we look, color is there. And then of course, as you'd expect, view code here, okay? So great, who cares, right? But this is very interesting, right? Because those are all the things that have changed. I mean, developers have asked me, like, hey, what all has been changed on this? Well, there you go. There's an easy way to look at that. But now that we've got this here, what we can do is we can copy this code. So copy code. And for right now, let's be simple. Let's just open Notepad. And now in Notepad, if we paste that code in, so you can see the same exact stuff. What's really cool about this though, if like, you know, instead of color.black there, I want that to be color.blue. So we'll just change this to color.blue. And instead of the X being 40 and 40, let's make this X 75 and Y 75 as well, right? Okay. So we edited a Notepad. Copy, minimize this, close this, right? You can't edit here, right? It's the reason we went to Notepad. You can't edit here, but we can close. Now, if you right click on the screen and you say paste, you have the old paste, but now you have paste code. And so we paste this in, there is our button. Notice the text is blue, but if we do view code, the X and the Y is just 60. So it doesn't take the X and the Y's, all right, it ignores those, but it did take our color change and our fill. In this interface, if you wanted, you could do a Control F and find. So if you want to be like, hey, where's the X at? Right, and it will take you to that line. So you do have the ability to find stuff. So let's add another button again, insert another button. And so now we're going to right click on this. So I did view code last time. If you just know you want the code, you can go here to copy and there's a copy code directly. And then we'll pull that over here and we could go over here and let's just paste this in the same file, button 2, right? And so we just see the properties, control, classic, button, properties, boom. Now we know, for example, I want this button to set a variable, right? So I could just come down here. If I know the syntax, we could go here and we'll just type in on select, right? Because that's the name of the property. And then we'd say equals, and then it'd be set var dog, comma, and then buddy, right? So just our normal PowerFX formula. So that's what that's going to look like. Now in a minute, we're going to talk about how to do that easier, but I wanted you to see that that was possible. What's even cooler, right? Grab this, both of these this time. So copy. So now we've got button 1 and button 2, right? Different properties, different things. And so now if we minimize this and go over here, let's just delete these 3 real quick. And now let's right click and say paste and paste code. And so look, both buttons got created for us. So even though, you know, we pasted 2 in there, like we can paste multiple controls at the same time because it said, oh, and your YAML, because well formatted, I understand there's 2 different controls and they were like that. And it wouldn't matter, right? We could have had another one. We could have had a date picker in there, right? If you do the same thing for a date picker, view code, right? So that's what the date pickers one looks like. And so if we went and added that, obviously, I mean, just, you know this, but I just like to kind of reinforce it, right? We could paste that in here. And then maybe we want to set one of the properties of it. Let's see, in my properties, how about we'll go, we'll set the color. So, okay, so it has a color property as well. So we'll just go copy this color.blue again, copy, And then we'll go right here, enter and paste. Oh, now you want to keep it nice and well formatted. And then of course, copy, paste. And if we just do a new screen, just so there's no confusion, and paste code, there they are, right? So very cool. All of this works the way that we would expect, I think, right? And so this is a nice one. Now, if you're thinking, well, Shane, why would I ever use this, right? So the best reason that I can think of for us non-developers who would use this, well, there's two, right? One is just to understand what's going on, right? Being able to peek behind the scenes is very helpful. But two, how many of you, every time you go to do like my upload video, right? Like, so think of this app, right? We built this one. If you haven't ever seen this video, this is how to upload a file. The video link's up there. But so we know that the first step is you have to insert a fake form. And then once you have the fake form, you steal the attachment control and you have to reconfigure, right? Like that's just the hoops we jump through every time. So there's one of those attachment controls. What if we right click on this thing and say view code? There's all those pieces, right? It's only 15 lines. What if instead of going through the game that I go through every time, what if I just use my little OneNote notebook that I keep all my little code snippets in and I added this as a code snippet, right? Because I can grab that. And so just go straight over here and paste it in, right? So paste code. And there you go. No configuration, no nothing. So even though the attachment control doesn't appear on the attachments, it brings it straight over. So this might be a way for you guys if you have complex stuff like that you want to store. And so now, there you go. Or if your buddy is saying, hey, how do you do that attachment control again? Like I can never remember. You can just send them this over in Teams or in an email, right? They just need that. They paste it in and it goes. So I think that's one really nice thing. Also, it can be more complicated than that, right? So if you think about over here, I also, in this particular example, had a container. And so inside this container is, labels. There's another container with attachment. Like there's a dozen pieces here. I can go to that container and I can click here and I can say, copy code. All right, go to Notepad. Let's just delete all this so we don't get confused. But look at this. All of that stuff is in here. You can see the container. You can see the container has children. So you can really see and copy all of this. So I can send this to someone once again in a Teams chat, but I can edit all of this, right? If I'm not happy with what's in here, or I need to rename everything or whatever shenanigans you're up to, but this is all of the working goodness. And so even when we go over here to our brand new app that's never seen it before on a brand new screen, we can paste that in, paste your code, and boom. Now you're like, hey, there's errors, but if we look in here, edit the formula bar, and right, I mean, even the comments are there. Oh, this one has a flow, right? I didn't copy the flow, I just copied the control. So I need to go add that flow in here, right? And then this one's built on top of that same flow. So that's the reason I'm getting errors. It's not anything wrong with the process. It's because I now have assets that aren't in this app because the app was blank and brand new 30 seconds ago. 3 minutes ago, 5 minutes ago, who knows? Now, one consideration here, right? So I just showed you individual controls, multiple controls. I showed you a container with nested stuff inside of it. All that works. If I go to the screen object here and I say, hey, Mr. Screen, and view code, I can see all the code for a screen, okay? I can copy the code for a screen, but if we go over here and try to like right click and say paste code, it's going to yell at me, pasting YAML for the screen isn't supported yet, right? So you can't do it for screens today. Hopefully that's a feature that's coming, but who knows when. That's okay. The other thing to keep in mind is that a lot of us are starting to build screens all inside of containers, right? Like the default app for Microsoft now has a container where it starts with a big whole screen container. So in those cases, you just copy that and be able to kind of jump from point A to point B. But remember also though, if you really just want to copy screen 3, right, you can always still just do a duplicate screen, like that still works. So that might be a easier way. And then you could kind of go through, right, there's screen 311 with all the pieces. Nothing too crazy here, but you need to kind of start seeing these things, right? It's just going to help you understand more what's going on. Also keep in mind if you're using the new controls, which I'm still not, but in case you are, right, if you go down here to modern controls and themes, turn them on and close, right? We know if we insert one of their fancy buttons, right, it looks different. But if you do the same thing, right, view code, and so it actually is doing the same thing. Just notice the control here is named button. The other one, the old one, is called classic/button. So not a big deal, not important per se, but I wanted you to make sure that you understood that, the classic controls are going to have a little bit of different pieces as well. That's the whole fun of this. Like here, I've never done a drop down. Let's just go look. Like, what does a drop down say? Insert a drop down, and then let's right click on this thing and view its code. Oh, it's just called a drop down. Like boring. But that has helped me, right? And there's a variant PCF data set. No idea what that is. Not going to learn, but now I see that there's something. So if I ever see an error message around PCF data set, maybe I'll remember that I saw that in Dropdown once. I don't know. So that's the straightforward side of it. Just grab those, edit in Notepad, retain those, send them to your friends and teams, that stuff. Hey, while you're taking some time by the pool, learning all this with me, remember, we can also do some training classes, training.poweraapps911.com. We've got live classes, on-demand classes. We've got a 6-month university. We've got some cool Power Pages training coming up, and we even are doing a Copilot Jumpstart, which is super awesome. We just spend all day talking about AI. Who doesn't love that? I know. Anyway, back to the video. Now we're gonna put on our brave faces, right? I'm not a developer, you're not a developer. It's okay. If you are a developer, you can laugh at how dumb I am. It's fine. So what we're gonna do is I installed something called VS Code, right? So VS Code is Visual Studio Code. This is Microsoft's free tool. Like, remember years ago, Visual Studio cost like $10,000 a person to use. Now it's just free. So we can all just get VS Code. And I went here and set up a workspace. And so then now inside my VS Code workspace, I'm going to go here, start a new file. Okay, so we're going to new file. And we're just going to go up here and we're just going to call this video.yaml. Now you want to make sure that it's a .yaml file and it doesn't have to be all caps. I don't want to keep all capsing it up, but I do. Video.yaml. And then we're going to say enter, right? So it's going to be like, hey, where do you want to save this? I'm going to save this in my VS Code folder. I just clicked away from for some silly reason, right? We're going to save it right here, create the file. Okay, so that's the first thing. We create the file. Now down at the bottom right, I'm going to have to move my face. You're going to see here that it says set language mode to YAML. That's important, right? It needs to know it's a YAML file. You can't just jump in and start using it. So it needs to say YAML here. And as long as you did a video.yaml and save it, it knows it's a YAML. Because what we really need to do next is, you see it says no JSON schema, right? Like, this is going to be the cool thing that the devs are going to be like, oh, I did not know this, right? We are going to teach the dev something. Well, what we can do is there is a PowerApps schema, but in order to get it, you got to jump through some hoops. So what you're going to do is you go here to the left and you click on extensions, and you are going to search for YAML. This is going to show you all the YAML extensions. You're looking for the one that's called YAML from Red Hat. Now, when you get here, then there's going to be a thing here that says install, right? So you can see I have a gear. You'll have a blue button that says install. It takes that long to do it. No questions, no nothing. It'll just instantly happen. And then you get the gear icon. Gear icon, we click on that. We want to go here to extension settings. Now, here what you want to do is you're going to want to go to workspace, okay? You can go to workspace and then you're going to scroll down a little bit. And we're going to go here to edit in JSON, or edit in settings.json. See, I told you JSON would come up. Right, that's why we learned that. If you ever learned JSON before, right, there's a video up there. All Power Apps people should know JSON. Like, that is not a devy thing. That is we all need to know it. Okay. In here, you're going to see different things. That's okay. Everyone's got different things here depending on what extensions they have, what settings they have, what configurations they have, blah, blah, blah. The key one is that you're going to need this, okay? YAML schemas, curly bracket, and then this URL, colon, and then PA YAML, and then close that, right? This is the one that we are looking for. Now, I will put a link, or I'll put this little chunk down in the description of the video, or you can just, grab the screenshot here, grab this, but you're going to need this, right? All this other stuff here, like, I have GitHub Copilot, so I have that ability. Like, you're going to see different things, but this is the one that's going to light up what we need. So once you've got that in here, we're going to X out of here. We're going to make sure we save our changes. Sorry, so make sure when you put it in there, you X out to get the save to happen. You can close the settings. Now, if we go back here to my video.yaml, go down here to the bottom right under my face again, we're going to say no JSON schema. We're going to click there. We're going to start to type in power, and we're going to see that URL. Okay, we're going to click on it. And if it works, which I had a hard time with this, so that's part of my 6 hours I spent on this. You can see down here in the bottom right, it now says Microsoft Power Apps. This is going to give you some autocomplete, some understanding about what's going on with Power Apps. Okay, so now that we've got this ready, now let's switch back over to Power Apps and let's take, let's insert a classic button, right? Like I don't like the fancy stuff. I like the classic stuff. Classic button. Okay, there's my classic button. So we're going to do the same thing here. Copy code. We're going to go back over, and in here, we're going to paste this in. Look at that. So nothing new, right? We did this with Notepad. What's really neat here though, go here, we'll hit enter. Notice I don't have to do all the spacing and understand spacing automatically. We can start to say on select. Oh, look at that. Tab complete. Nice. What do you want to do on tab select? How about let's do a a set, just a simple variable, right? So we'll say set, and then, right, like it's kind of suggests, it sometimes understands a little bit sudden. And the suggestions, I should go over this real quick. The suggestions are coming because I have Copilot Studio, right? Like, so if you have GitHub Copilot, not Copilot Studio, GitHub Copilot, then that's where I'm seeing the suggestions. If not, you're just gonna have to paste the code in here yourself. But we're gonna say set var doggy this time, and we'll do a comma, and then we'll just do buddy. That kind of helps me through. Oh, what, you want to also add a patch in there? No big deal, right? We go here and look. Now, this is where GitHub Copilot kind of understands, like, oh, what if I made one called cat and made it Whiskers, right? Like a cat name, like that's kind of neat stuff. But we're going to do now, we're going to say, I want to do patch. And then we're going to do, and look, this is pretty close to a correct patch, right? We don't want that because we're going to do something different, but we would have employees. It's my data source of choice, defaults employees, and then name buddy. Now, when I use the GitHub, I hit the tab complete. It put all these spaces in here. If you get spaces, I want you guys to see this. This is a common error. So this will yell at you as long as you have things configured correctly. But if you were Notepad, it wouldn't have yelled at you. If you try to copy this and go back over here and paste it, paste code, you're going to get this terrible error, right? While scanning a plain scalar value found invalid mapping. What? I don't know either, right? Like, so just keep that in mind. Spaces are not valid in YAML. So what we need to do here is, because I did the whole cut and paste, or the whole, type ahead thing. Like if I go in, I need to blow away all these spaces. And then actually we don't want name, we would do title because that's the right field. But there you go, right? So I was able to do that code. Now, if we copy this and go back over and we paste our code, right, there it is. Now, once again, we get an error, but what's the error? It's like, hey, I don't know what in the world employees is, right? So what are we going to do to fix that? We then just need to add the data source real quick over here. I'll edit this out for you. So there you go. I added my SharePoint employees list, and now everything matches, and now the button's happy. So just keep that in mind if you're, pasting in things from the outside, or you wrote code outside there that's calling data sources. Is the data source in your app? Probably a fair question. That's kind of the idea, right? Is that we now have the ability to go over here and write PowerFX inside of our piece here in the YAML, and then send it over. So if you are a pro dev now, then you're thinking, okay, I could have Git repositories. I could start to do, merging and branches and all that devy stuff. I don't know what all that is, but you get the idea. You guys can start to do true source code editing and control, right? And source code comparisons, because it's not just a simple, copy and paste here, right? Like we've got a full development tool around this. For those of us that aren't devs, like we're probably just good with Notepad, but I think, like I said, I spent a good part of my day fighting with VS Code to kind of learn this. It was good muscles, right? I got a little smarter today for it. So I don't hate the idea of all of you setting up VS Code just to see if you can recreate this demo. I think there are good things to be had. And like here, I've got the whole GitHub Copilot, right? So I could do something like this, and I could say, set the color to Dodger blue. And then it should offer me a suggestion. And look at that, color Dodger blue. So it almost got it right. So we can just say accept. And then like we'd have to fix all the format. Like it didn't really, but it kind of got it right. Like I don't really think you're going to do much of that. But I wanted you to understand that it was possible. Let's just say Control Z here. There you go. Put that back. I would also say, like, maybe a better example would have been this. Create another button and set the variable to Chewy. And so what this should do, look, it made button 4 for us there. Look at that. And instead of set var doggy to Chewy this time. And then what we can do is we can highlight all this, because now it's angry because the tabbing's wrong. We'll say shift tab, shift tab, shift tab. There we go. And then now we need this one. Oh, just grab all these again and say tab. There you go. So now it's formatted the right way. So GitHub Copilot did a good job for me, but now we could obviously copy both of these. And remember, even though if we looked over here, like we've already got button 3 and 3.1, like it's just going to paste code. So there we button 3.2, and then button 4 is still button 4, but now we've got those 2 buttons in here. All right, so I hope that opens some doors for you guys, right? View code, copy code, edit code. Remember, use Control Find in there. Use Notepad to edit if you're not comfortable with VS Code. But as we continue to get better, right? Low code, right? Which is our whole thing. Like we all learned how to do this low code stuff. Remember, our whole goal, like the whole reason we got into this was to learn. We keep learning more and more stuff, right? We've learned JSON, we've learned about APIs, Now we're kind of seeing some YAML. We kind of see this Visual Studio Code. Like, we're just making ourselves more valuable and smarter with all this. So embrace some of this complexity, even though you're thinking there's no reason I might need this as a non-pro code person. It's still worth taking the time to learn. Questions, comments, leave them below. This was a departure for us, but hopefully a good one. Shout out to Marcel. He's the guy on the product team that kind of runs this feature. He spent way too much time helping me understand this. Like I said, I spent 6 hours to make this 20-minute video for you. But yeah, thank you to Marcel. And then of course, Tasha, because she was also facilitating some stuff there. Yeah. And I guess with that, I'm going to say thanks and have a great day.